Tonight, we remember 1957 as the year that launched, if you will, a dedicated volunteer who has made lasting contributions to the cities, the provinces, and the country in which she lived. Anne Schnell McCaig was born and raised in Tisdale, Saskatchewan, the daughter of Margaret and Lawrence Schnell, Tisdale's local John Deere implement and Chrysler dealer. Her early years centered around family, church, and community. Anne credits the example set by her parents, as well as the broader community, with shaping her character and fostering a passion for community service. She has commented, "I will never forget those early days in Tisdale when lending a helping hand to another was simply a way of life. No one ever questioned it, they just did it. I learned that giving is both a privilege and a responsibility." Anne earned a Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Saskatchewan in 1961. In addition to her education, she gained recognition when chosen as Frosh Queen, Campus Queen, and subsequently Miss Saskatchewan Rough Rider. We need to know, Anne, do you still cheer for the green and white? Following graduation, Anne worked as an English and history teacher in Calgary and Regina for 2 years. In 1962, she married Roger McCaig, and they had 3 children, Roxanne, John, and Jane. While in Regina, Anne embarked on her first major fundraising project when she assisted the Lakeview United Church in establishing one of the first group homes for troubled youth. In 1970, the family moved to Calgary, where Anne immediately got involved in volunteer positions for a variety of organizations such as the Junior League and the United Way. Following the death of husband Roger in 1976, Anne met the challenge of single parenthood with her characteristic strength and determination, setting an example for her own children. In 1984, she married Bud McCaig. Later that same year, she was approached by her friend and mentor, Peter Lougheed, and asked to serve on the University of Calgary's Board of Governors. Although daunted, she eventually accepted the position, which she held for a decade, before becoming the university's chancellor in 1994. At the end of her term in 1998, the university conferred upon her the title of Chancellor Emeritus, in recognition of her outstanding role as Chancellor and 14 years of service to the university. Notable achievements while at the UFC were serving as Vice Chair of the $40 million Building on the Vision campaign and co-chair of the university's $13 million Delivering Results campaign for the Faculty of Management. Anne's contributions were again recognized by the university in 2001 when she received an honorary Doctor of Laws degree, and in 2004 when she was chosen to receive the inaugural Education Partnership Award as part of the university's Celebration of Excellence. Anne has also demonstrated her ongoing commitment to excellence in education by serving many years as a trustee for the $400 million Killam Trust. In this role, she helps to oversee the administration and distribution of scholarships to postgraduate students and Killam fellowships to leading professors and scholars at Canadian universities. Anne's passion for youth is demonstrated in her tireless effort in supporting and advocating for adolescents with alcohol and drug addictions. For the past 12 years, she has been chairman of the board of the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Centre, ARC, the leading residential treatment centre in Canada for 12 to 18-year-olds struggling with drug addictions. The organization has facilitated an unprecedented level of clinical success. In fact, some of the centre's young clients have come to refer to it as the last house on the block, because for some, it would be their last hope. Through Anne's fundraising abilities, business acumen, and expert leadership, ARC has a high profile in Calgary, a growing endowment, and recently completed a very successful $9 million expansion campaign. She is held in the highest esteem by clients, parents, and staff. In addition to her commitments to education and youth, Anne has also been an avid supporter of health initiatives. In 2003, she co-chaired the Alberta Children's Hospital campaign, raising more than $52 million to help build a new state-of-the-art pediatric facility in Calgary. Anne is currently chair of the Calgary Health Trust, the largest not-for-profit organization in Western Canada, as well as honorary chair of the Alberta Bone and Joint Institute, an organization founded by her late husband, Bud McKeag, in 2004. In 2008, Anne was appointed a director of the Gardner Foundation, an organization recognizing and rewarding the achievements of medical researchers whose work contributes significantly to improving the quality of human life. The Gardner Awards are considered Canada's foremost international award. Anne and her daughters, Roxanne and Jane, became the first in Canada to contribute to the development of 2 national monuments in honor of the memory of the Famous Five. Over the last 8 years, Anne and both daughters have continued to be involved in the work of the Famous Five Foundation by speaking at luncheons and providing support for special initiatives. Prior community service activities include chairperson of the Calgary Foundation, board member of the Banff Centre Foundation, director of Calgary United Way, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta Arts Awards Committee member, Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra board member, National Director of the Shaw Festival Niagara-on-the-Lake, and Director of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. She has been a dedicated supporter of the Calgary Zoo, and as chair of the Tusks and Tails Gala, raised over $1 million for education and conservation research. Anne's prior private sector contributions involve serving as a director of Suncor Energy for 14 years. Additionally, she has experience as the owner and president of an exclusive women's boutique for 14 years. Currently, Anne serves as the director of the Calgary Stampede Foundation, a member of the Governor General Arts Award Council, and a member of the Community and Partners Advisory Committee for the Libin Cardiovascular Institute of Alberta. She frequently opens her home in support of funding for various causes such as Calgary's Humane Society, Philharmonic Society, Science Centre, and the Alberta Bone and Joint Institute. Anne's extraordinary contributions have been recognized with numerous awards. She is a member of the Order of Canada and has received the Alberta Order of Excellence, the Alberta Centennial Award, the Rotary Integrity Award, the Paul Harris Fellowship Rotary International Award, the YWCA Woman of Distinction Lifetime Achievement Award, the Queen Elizabeth Award, the 125th Confederation of Canada Award, and her second Honorary Doctor of Laws from the U of A. She has also been honored with the U of S Alumni Humanitarian Award and recognized as one of the university's 100 alumni of influence. To accomplish all the things she does, Anne rejuvenates with everyday pleasures that are meaningful to her. At the top of her list are her family and friends. She loves to cook, entertain, spend time with her 8 grandchildren, walk with her faithful companions, Buster, Chanel, and Trimac, golf, do crossword puzzles, play bridge, and meet with loved ones at the Granny Cottage in the mountains. Her nominator describes her in the following words: "The art of living shines through all she does. Her generosity and kindness know no bounds. Anne is an amazing woman who mentors, inspires, and opens others to possibilities. Anne proudly acknowledges her Tisdale roots. It would be wonderful to celebrate her nationally recognized philanthropy in her hometown. We could not agree more." Just last week, we received a letter from one of Anne's former classmates. We would like to share that with you, and I would call upon friend of Anne's, Franklin Baines, to read that letter.
As a former student council president at Tisdale Unit Composite School, and on behalf of the many students that attended TUCS with you, I wish to take this opportunity to extend sincere congratulations to you on being inducted into the 2010 Tisdale Unit and Secondary School Wall of Fame. Over the years, we have watched with great interest the contributions that you have made to your community. Many of us knew, even before you had the infamous student protest in the fall of 1956, that you were an outstanding individual, destined to become one of the most notable persons to graduate from TUCS. But we wondered how this notoriety would surface. Well, Anne, you now know. We know you for your compassion, generosity, consideration of others, and contributions to education, medical science, and the community at large. Having known and admired your mother and father, I feel confident in saying these characteristics were initially instilled by your family and enriched by the schools and the small town in which we lived. I, along with many former students of TUCS, am proud to call you a friend. Finally, I share with you the feeling and pride that I know goes with saying, I come from Tisdale. Congratulations, Anne. No one is more deserving of this honor. Ward Faulkner.
Tonight, it is our honor to induct Mrs. Anne McKay into the Tisdale Middle and Secondary School Wall of Fame.
Goodness, that was absolutely amazing. I had absolutely no idea that you had put that all together. What a special tribute. It's very humbling. It's very difficult to speak after that tribute that was just so well done. And when I see things like that, I'm constantly reminded of the wonderful opportunities that I've had in my life and the wonderful friends that I've made along the way. Life's experiences makes us what we are and what we are today. And what I am today is a little bit of what you've seen on the screen. It seems a little overwhelming when you see it all, but it's always been such a pleasure. And as I like to tell people in a lot of the not-for-profit things to do, I've never done anything that I haven't absolutely loved and that I haven't absolutely enjoyed to the fullest. All of those things have brought such a great deal of satisfaction to my life. And I have my upbringing to thank for that, to be in this position that I am today. Sherilyn, that was an absolutely marvelous video presentation. I don't think I've seen a better one for anyone. Really, I haven't. And I've seen quite a few ceremonies, so that was, gosh, for my children here, that was pretty special, wasn't it? Oh, dear. Anyway, I'm honored by your recognition. I appreciate the work of the Wall of Fame Committee, including former chairperson Lorna Manson that I had a chance to meet this evening. I hope you were able to stay, Lorna. I just met you briefly. As I looked at the wall earlier this evening, I was excited to see many familiar names, including the infamous Brent Butt. And seeing water skier Jim Clooney's name reminded me that his uncle was actually my sister Joan's first serious boyfriend in high school. In fact, Jim was named after his uncle, who died very tragically in an airplane accident at a very early age. I was younger than my sister. I don't remember much of what Jim looked like, but he was very handsome, and I see the young man on the Wall of Fame, and he reminds me of his uncle and what accomplishments that Jim Clooney has had. I'm humbled to be included among so many inductees. What a great reminder of the potential in all of us. And I encourage each of you, especially the students among us, to see yourselves as future inductees on the Wall of Fame. I'm so pleased to be sharing this evening tonight with Holly. Congratulations, Holly, for what is a well-deserved recognition. I applaud your many accomplishments. I'm grateful my family is here with me and able to share in this special occasion. You've seen pictures of Roxanne, John, and Jane. I have with me also my brother, Buzz Schnell, from Regina, and his wife, Jenny Schnell, from Saskatoon. I also have a family friend with us tonight, Alex Burrows, who was born and raised in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and she's here tonight to celebrate with us. But I also want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, my good friend Mark Thorson, who nominated me, and is herself a graduate of the school. Went through grades 1 to 12 here. Her father was in family medicine here for 40 years. He served the town and the community so well, and it was a pleasure for me to know him. Even though Marg graduated a few years after me, we share many of the same memories and have always enjoyed a special bond from our Tisdale days. Marg is here tonight, along with our very good family friend that you heard from, Franklin Baines. Marg is here with her brother, Jim Wright. I've spent many a lovely time at his home, and I do consider them still very close. And the three of us, Franklin and Margaret and I, have remained the best of friends. And when we get together, we enjoy many stories and memories of our Tisdale days. And you know what they say about old stories. They just get better, and they just get funnier. Our camaraderie was kind of tough on my late husband, Bud McKay, who sat through many a night of let's share Tisdale stories. In fact, after we had one of these nights, I always tried to find somebody from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan that I could have over so that Bud could get equal time. But being back in school brings to mind many memories, including my very first day at Tisdale Elementary. We couldn't go to school then until we were 6 years old, and I was so excited. Both my sister and my brother had gone to school. I was so impatient to go to school. And I woke that morning very early, threw on my clothes, and ran to school. The school was beautiful. It was a red brick building, had grades 1 to 4. Sorry it's not here today. I think it would have made a marvelous heritage site. Anyway, that was how I first went and was excited to go. When I got there, of course, the doors were locked and everything was dark, and I was so worried and so frightened. And of course, I was an hour early because I was 6 and I didn't tell time. Anyway, my wonderful brother Buzz brought me my lunch, my breakfast actually, because of course I was too excited to eat. And it was a honey sandwich made with what it became later almost world famous honey, the Baines honey. And Mr. Baines is another success story. He was the winner of many world fairs for his honey. And it was his son Franklin that you heard from this evening. But when the teacher finally arrived and opened the doors, I began my years of formal education, a time of life that I absolutely loved. I'll always be grateful to the special teachers who inspired in me a love for learning, and I continue to enjoy that today. I'm also so extremely proud of my Saskatchewan roots, and it's a great joy for me to be home. And yes, Tisdale is and will always be home to me. The sky today seemed endless, the air so fresh, and the people so warm. This place and my friends here are such a blessing. I always look for opportunities to tell people about Tisdale and what growing up meant to me. I'm often preaching to the converted because, as you know, half of Calgary is from Saskatchewan. One of the individuals I had the privilege of working with in Calgary is Dr. Dean Voss, who is the Executive Director of Canada's Top Treatment Program, and you saw a little bit about that tonight. ARC. As chair of ARC, I work with Dean on a regular basis. He is from Swift Current, Saskatchewan. He was a Swift Current Bronco, and he has the nose to prove it. Like me, Dean is extremely proud of his roots and likes to call Saskatchewan the motherland. I couldn't agree more. Just last week, I saw another Saskatchewanite at a luncheon hosted by the Calgary Stampede, and that was Tom Jackson of North of 60 fame. Tom was born on the One Arrow Reserve near Batoche, and of course, he is an absolutely wonderful success story. In his remarks at the luncheon last week, Tom was challenging his audience to never give up. I do remember his words, and it was, "Don't believe it when people say what's done is done." He is adamant that giving up is never an option. There's always something you can do to improve your circumstances. Tom is a great example of a life turned around, and his message, to keep working on it even when things look toughest and the bleakest, resonated with me. It reminded me of my parents, who persevered even when times were difficult and challenging, and that has been my story. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "You must do the thing you think you cannot do." In my experience as a volunteer, a business person, and as a parent, I have learned that the greatest joy in life is often found when we do the things we think we couldn't. Just last month, I found myself doing something I would have never have thought possible or even dreamed of when I was younger. I was in Ottawa, having dinner in Rideau Hall with the Right Honourable Michelle Jean. It was a private dinner for a number of us from Western Canada, and she was asking us to help her set up a foundation to support underprivileged youth in Canada. I'm very excited to be involved in this work, as it will help young people from all cultural groups realize their potential through the arts, and in many cases do things they would have never thought possible. Another example of that from my life is what I call the Premier Lougheed story, and you heard a little bit about that earlier. In the late 1984, Bud and I had just moved into a new home, and the telephone rang, and it was the woman's voice said, "This is the office of the Premier calling for Mrs. McKay." And when I picked up the phone, and she said it was the office of the Premier calling, I said, "No, you obviously have the wrong phone number. This is the residence. This is not the business, but I'll give you Mr. McKay's number." She said, "Just a minute, please." And after a time, a gruff voice came on and said, "Anne, I know who I'm calling, and it's you that I want to speak with." It was the Premier, Peter Lougheed, and he was calling to invite me to serve as the government representative on the Board of Governors at the University of Calgary. I was so surprised he was calling me, and more surprised at his invitation. I kept asking Peter, "Do you really think I could do this? Don't you think you would want Bud?" He said no. But his encouragement in me and belief in me became the catalyst for one of the most rewarding seasons of my life. Because after serving on the university's Board of Governors for 6 years, I became Chancellor. And one of the many highlights of that role was shaking the hand of every graduate at convocation. And Peter helped me and put me on the path of community service in Calgary and in Alberta. And as I look back at the opportunities I've enjoyed so much over the last 26 years, I know I owe a debt of gratitude to Peter for his example and his faith in me. We all need role models, people who inspire us, encourage us, and even challenge us to step out of our comfort zone. I enjoyed the remarks earlier from your Vice Principal, Mr. Needham. One of the teachers I most respected was Mr. Larry Solomon. He was a role model, and one of the things that stands out in my memory was Mr. Solomon's record of community service. He helped shape our school community, and he also gave of his time and talents to invest in the greater community. Thank you, Mr. Solomon. I'm so glad that you could be here with us this evening. I believe that a devotion to community service is what makes for a fulfilling life. I've learned the truth of the principle, give and it will be given to you. The greatest gift is in the giving. I always remember a story Doc Seaman told me. Many of you may know of the Seaman family. They're from Rollo, Saskatchewan. Doc moved to Calgary as a very young man and became co-founder of an international oil and gas company. He was also part owner of the Calgary Flames. I know Saskatchewan doesn't like the Flames very much, and I'm always kind of disappointed at that. You seem to be Edmonton Oiler fans, especially my brother. It's really bad. Anyway, when I was chair of the Calgary Foundation, Doc gave the foundation $1 million. It was one of the many generous donations that he made over his lifetime. He told me that the first time he was approached for a donation, it was hard to imagine giving that much money away. He had to think about it and give it a lot of consideration. When he finally decided to do it, he was quite worried as to whether he had made the right decision. But then he said, as you see how the money is used for the greater good, it becomes a wonderful experience, and it gets easier to give away because the rewards are just so great. I always remember that story because I believe everyone who gives of their time, talent, or treasure will find it very rewarding, while also it has a great impact on the world around you. The history of this town, and in fact this entire province, is rooted in stories just like this. People who had a shared vision of a new life for their families in a new land. People who were prepared to give of themselves to realize something greater. It was here in Tisdale that I learned the importance of Remembrance Day. Every year we would march from the Legion Hall to the cenotaph for the ceremony. Even though I was too young to really understand much, it was always a moving experience, especially the march, the wreath ceremony, and the minute of silence. A mother was chosen each year. We had the ceremony to represent the mothers of the fallen soldiers. And the one year I particularly remember, and I don't even know how old I was, but there was a mother that was chosen to participate in the ceremony who had lost 3 sons. I don't remember her name. She lost 3 sons in the war. She was so emotional, she needed help to get her to the cenotaph. But after she put the wreath down, she stepped back and she smiled. And even as a little girl, I could sense her pride over the sacrifices her sons had made for the greater good of our country. During those difficult years, the people of this community were prepared to make sacrifices, to work hard, to take care of one another. We were a tight-knit community. Also in those days, the church was the focal point of our community and our social life. My father was the superintendent of the Sunday school for many years. My mother directed the junior choir, and I was the organist. And I wasn't very good, but you know, I was kind of the only one around, so I did that. But when I left Tisdale, I actually bought an organ just like the one I played in the church. I played it for many years. My kids will attest to that. I still have the original hymn book that I was given when I was in grade 7 when I started to play in the church. But at that time, we would never have thought of asking the government to help meet our needs. Our efforts to help one another were largely coordinated through the church, raising money to new playgrounds to providing food hampers for families in need. Our way of life helped us learn to be responsible rather than looking for handouts. All of us grew up believing that if you have initiative and the will, there is a way. We also learned the joy of being part of a community. I can remember Thanksgivings, fowl suppers, and Christmases when we all came together to decorate the church and celebrate. These were special times when bonds were formed and traditions were passed along. As many of you know, my dad was a John Deere and Chrysler dealer. He and his brother Carl were in business together as the Schnell brothers. Dad spent much of his time on the farms in and around Tisdale. He knew the people in our community, and at threshing time, he would have lunch with the farmers in the fields. People tended to share their concerns and needs with Dad, things like family issues and personal challenges. Dad became a real friend and a great support for many in our community, and that had a tremendous impact on my life. When we became aware of a need, we responded as a family and as a community to do something about it. As a result, I believe to this day that no matter our lot in life, we have a responsibility to help others. After my mother's passing, we found a copy of a letter that she had written to her sister in 1945. I want to share this with you, some of the highlights and the reason that she had such a powerful impact on my life. She wrote, "I feel if I make one person happy each day, I will have, in 40 years, made about 14,600 human beings happy for a little time at least. Let us hope that our purpose in life is to see that each of us makes a contribution that will enable us to say that we, individually and collectively, are part of the answer to the world's problems and not part of the problem itself." My mother lived those words every day of her life, and through her example, she taught me to care about other people, to be passionate about what I believe in, and to work hard for the good of the community. These are skills, insights, and learning that I've been able to apply in all of my volunteer and business activities. I can only hope that these are some of the things that I've taught my children and will be passed on to their children. Qualities like honesty and integrity, a genuine caring for others, a sense of duty to community and to country. Today, perhaps more than ever before, our country needs people with such qualities, people who will make sacrifices, even modest ones, to help others. We need people who understand what it means to be a contributing member of society, people who give at least as much as they take. At some point in my life, I realized that my parents had authored these qualities in me, something I didn't fully appreciate until after they had passed away. I wish I could have thanked them for their great example and positive influence. But I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share this with you today, hoping their example inspires you too. Their story, and that of many others like them, is part of our collective heritage in Tisdale and in Western Canada. I know there are people here tonight and across our great country whose lives exemplify these same qualities. That is why I'm personally very excited about our future, especially in Western Canada. Saskatchewan is one of Canada's richest provinces, endowed with so many great resources, the greatest of which is the people. From a great premier to a strong people, and from one end of Saskatchewan to another, this is the place of promise and great hope. I want to thank you for honoring me this evening and giving me the opportunity to reflect on and share many of my special memories. In the process, I've remembered so many precious only Tisdale experiences. Things like Teen Town, where every Friday night the dads brought their teenage kids to the Orange Hall for a party. The dads would visit together in the back room while the kids played records and danced the night away. Marg Thorson, Marg Wright, still likes to say that Franklin taught her to jive at Teen Town. Who can forget the Tisdale 50s, our baseball team? Dad was the manager, and brother Buzz played left field. Great times. We would drive all over the countryside for games and sports days. This is something that Bud and I were able to replicate at our home in Calgary by hosting an annual sports day to celebrate Father's Day and Bud's birthday. For us, it was a connection to our Saskatchewan roots. Our family and friends loved it. In fact, our last sports day before Bud died attracted more than 200 guests. We had trophies made for various competitions, and Bud took great delight in making sure the winners' names were all engraved on the championship trophies every year. In fact, one of my friends who lives in Calgary now from Regina, Saskatchewan, said one of her grandsons said it was better than Christmas because he always got lots of ribbons. We knew summer had arrived in Tisdale when the young boys, including my brother Buzz, would go down to the dog hide and scout out the best swimming hole. But that would really depend on where the beavers had built their dam. Kind of the year before, some great swims there. Of course, Brent Butt has made the Tisdale Dog River very famous. What most people don't know is that one year we swam on the golf course because the whole golf course was flooded. That was pretty good too. It was better than a muddy bottom. We had a grass bottom. But speaking of the golf course, I'm very proud of my dad's role in developing that. He was a catalyst in raising the money to build the grass greens where we enjoy to this day. After his passing, the family was able to have a bench named in his honor, which is at the first hole. Finally, our Tisdale memories would not be complete without mentioning the drive-in theater which the Faulkner family built here. It made us one of the first communities in northern Saskatchewan to have a drive-in and represented a real coming of age for our town. These are just a handful of my most special memories and why I'm so proud to call Tisdale, Saskatchewan home. And yes, when the Saskatchewan Roughriders play in Calgary, I do wear green. Once again, thank you for this special evening and your kind affection toward me and my family. I look forward to visiting with many of you after the presentations tonight. Enjoy the rest of the evening.